Well, in 1970, my husband and I bought a small little business called the Christmas Tree Shops, and that brought us to Cape Cod. So there were 3 stores at that time, one in Yarmouth Port, one in West Yarmouth, and one in West Dennis. And the goal was to just be a gift shop, and my husband just wanted to support the family. And so those were our goals in 1970. So we lived over the store in Yarmouth Port for about 5 years until we got our own home, which was less than a mile from the office because all of our time was spent at the store, obviously. We both worked at it very hard. My husband was the chief merchandiser and I did the books, and we just, did the scheduling, the hiring, everything. And then, of course, with time, the business grew, and we decided that we wanted a store in all the towns on the Cape. So we went to Falmouth and Orleans and expanded to Bourne, the Sagamore store. And then we decided that it was time to go over the bridge. Our first store off Cape was in Pembroke. And so that was a very big deal, 45 minutes from the warehouse. And after that, the business, we realized we could do business off Cape, so we expanded. And then, of course, the business was very successful. I think it was really one of the most loved stores in New England. We sold it in we sold it, we were 23 stores, and we sold it to Bed Bath & Beyond in the year 2003.
Mm-hmm.
It was 20 years ago. And following the sale of the business, we established a family foundation with some of the proceeds from the business. And so we established the family foundation, I think in 2002, 2003, I'm not really quite sure. But since then, we've donated and supported many of the philanthropic organizations here, the nonprofits here on the Cape. And it has been really across the board in terms of supporting the nonprofits. It has not been just education or just health care. It's been from Cape Cod Hospital to the PAM in Provincetown, projects in Falmouth, and it's been all, diversified all over the Cape. And then, of course, we've been doing projects outside of the United States as well, for countries that are third world countries that are in need of whatever, mostly health and education. There also is a tree project in Armenia that we're supporting. They are building forests because the trees were cut down at such a massive rate for fuel, for warmth, so that they're rebuilding the forests in Armenia, and so we contributed to that. My husband always wanted to have his own business, and so we came to the Cape on vacation. Actually, it was the July 4th weekend. We were staying in Falmouth, and my husband was always working. And so even though we were on vacation, he had to make this call to this fellow, Don Winner, in Yarmouth Port, who owned the Christmas Tree Shops at that time. And so we went to make the call, the business call, and so Don Winner said, "Do you want to buy a business?" So we said, "Well, what about it?" So we went home, we thought about it, we talked to our accountant, and our accountant said, we took inventory, and it was a good enough business, and we made a very good deal, a payment over 10 years. at 6%. And so we lived in Newton at that time, and so we were taking over the business on Labor Day. So my husband came down and stayed here, literally, and lived over the store, because it was all involved cash. And so I was left to sell the house and move and bring the two of my, we had two sons, they were 2 and 4 at the time, and we moved to the Cape in October of that year.
Help run the business?
I was a social worker. I worked for the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children, actually.
Oh, cool.
I knew nothing about business, really. Nothing. Just practical stuff. So I always said I had on-the-job training for 32 years. It was another learning experience. And it was a good learning experience in that we had to understand the nature of the nonprofits, decide not only how much money, but how are we going to find out whether it was relevant or not, whether it was really going to improve the nonprofit. And we had to have some measurements. And so it was a learning experience all around. At that time, there weren't that many women in business. Mm-hmm. And so I really didn't have any role models. And I had to really kind of make my own way. And of course, in the 70s and even in the 80s, men were still the center of attention. And even if I sat on a board, when I sat on many boards, I could say something that was really intelligent, and the guy sitting next to me could say something really stupid, and everybody would look at the guy and say, "Oh, you're right." I still am involved with, if there's a need for something, I'll be approached for that. Mm-hmm. But I support Symphony, of course, mm-hmm. and Dennis Playhouse, the museums, education, healthcare, just about. The Cape was very good to us, and this is where we got started. And I think it's good to give back mm-hmm. to the community. I don't know if we had been someplace else, if we would have been just as successful. I really don't know, because we've never done it. But, well, that's not true. I take that back, because we were in Nyack, New York. We were in Portland, Maine, New Hampshire. So we would have made it, I think, and Rhode Island. But I've lived on the Cape now most of my life. I've been here since 1970, and that's 53 years. So yeah, it's my home. Well, both my sons grew up on Cape Cod Bay, and they did water skiing, boating, fishing, and now their children have embraced the water, quote unquote water as well. My grandson has his captain's license for a fishing boat, and my 2 youngest granddaughters can maneuver a 17-foot whaler and to go out, bring their friends out to either Sampson's Island. They fish, they do everything.